There's this chat that it's not a chart, but a concept called dimensions of wellness.
Mm,
And I learned about it in, I think, college. This was even before I was in grad school. And it's something that really resonates with me. So the idea is, I believe there are 8 dimensions of wellness. Some places say it's like 10, but on average it's 8. And that's like the social, the physical, the
mm,
financial, etc., aspects of your life. And I find that when weeks where I'm very intentional about doing as many of those things in those 8 lists, I find that I thrive the most. One, because I think I'm someone that likes variety. So the more I'm able to engage in as many of those, like my weeks are like, you cannot talk to me anyhow. Like it's the math is math and the calculations are calculating. I'm just kind of breezing
okay.
through. Whereas days where I don't, or weeks where I don't have as much of those varieties or none of them in terms of intentionally taking care of myself,
Yeah,
I don't thrive as much as it relates to my well being. As someone who, works in trauma and grief, have you seen moments where working through trauma and grief has led people to discover strengths in themselves that they didn't know that they had?
absolutely. I have a client in mind who um their trauma and grief story strongly aligns with self.
Mm,
And so while we're processing all of the traumatic and grieving experiences,
mhm,
identity is coming through.
mm,
And that's it's really fun to watch that
mm,
process unfold.
mm. Let's talk more about identity as it relates to grief and or trauma.
Hmm.
And identity, typically, the first thing that came to mind was on a racial level, but I want to kind of expand that definition of identity.
Yeah.
Um, what are some things that you've noticed when it comes to grief and or trauma as it relates to identity, racially or otherwise?
In a broader sense, when people have life changing experiences, either through a traumatic experience or you've lost somebody,
Mhm,
um, whoever you were before that event
mhm.
is interrupted in that moment that you experienced that e-
Like,
trauma or grief.
mhm,
And so now we have a process of integrating that past self
mm,
with the symptoms really that came out of that negativity. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So we have
mm.
to
That's a wonderful analogy.
push it
That's a
together.
I'm someone who like I love idioms or like proverbs. There's a lot of like proverbs in my culture. I'm
Yeah.
Igbo, so like I'm just very fascinated by them on like a literal level, but also like a what's the bigger meaning, like a symbolism sort of way.
Nigerians are poetic. I'm inspired.
Thank you, thank you. When it comes to your identity in terms of having parents from the Caribbean, how does that influence the work that you do?
In some cases, very directly, like when it
Mm,
comes to, I guess, really specific cultural information or
mm,
experiences. No further clarification needed. I lived that
mm.
with you. Um,
Yep, it's
and,
like a I see you.
and so that's very helpful.
Mm,
But also, I think even just my clientele can be quite diverse. It's not, I don't
mm,
only work with people whose experiences I share, but I
mhm,
also um, meet with people who are vastly different from me. And
mhm,
so I do find that that is also a point of just humility, of just remembering what you know and what you don't know,
mm,
and using whatever points of reference that you have, whether or not they're exactly the same, just
mm,
to unite and to
mm,
think about what you do have in common and how your
mm,
experiences can help you understand somebody else.
So I think being open in terms of um what help can look like, and this goes for like therapy but also in other spaces. I've had wonderful mentors with like different life experiences. Sometimes the person who is able to be most helpful is that person who you have a lot of similarities, and sometimes it's that person who you don't have that much similarities with, because then they can offer additional or a different insight to life that you need. Because in some ways, if you speak to people that have the similar life experiences, then there's only so much that, well, not so much in the context of therapy, this is outside of therapy now. There's only so much you can learn if our lives are the same, right?
Yeah.
Even with this podcast, as we were discussing earlier, the reason of not wanting to be focused on just like speaking to fellow clinicians is because we have similar information, similar background as it relates to like our professional life. And so that curiosity in me of wanting to like learn from people of diverse backgrounds and diverse professions and interests and goals, and I think is really, really important because different people can teach you different things and can teach you unique things. But that is not to discount, of course, the fact that having certain similarities can be very helpful because there's certain things that you might not have to explain. That is just kind of like a girl, I get it.
Yes.
I see you. I
Yes.
see you.